Now, I have never been more astonished and bewildered in my entire life. Not because IGN is admitting why it's giving a 7 to games, and the fact that it's admitting it's not interested in playing games, but the fact that they're actually putting this on their Twitter and thinking it's good PR. So I'll just let them explain it themselves, and you guys can draw the conclusions.
This is the best it's ever felt.
Well-executed expansion pack rather than a brand new game.
And a beautiful sense of style keeps it clean up.
Like, already the video looks like a parody, doesn't it? It looks like if I was to make a video mocking IGN for giving 7 to all the games, this is the compilation that I would make. But this is not me doing it. I'm not trolling them. They are doing it to themselves.
Making it feel like a promising first
What is
attempt.
truly a unique and charming action RPG.
Why is it that the big name stuff rarely seems to score below a 7?
A satisfying RPG to plunder your way through.
There are a few reasons for this, and none of them have anything to do with a reluctance to give low scores when we think they're warranted.
It just doesn't work here.
The reality is, there are simply far too many things coming out every day to review them all.
So their argument is that there are way too many games coming out to review them all. Like, how are there so many games? Unless you're counting mobile games, which obviously no one is expecting IGN to review, there are fewer games now than there have been in the past. Like, I remember back in the day when you used to play 5, maybe 6 games a month because they were coming out. Nowadays, there are entire months with almost no new games. So let's listen for their explanation, because this is very bizarre.
Most are underwhelming or clearly bad, and go completely unnoticed by the vast majority of people.
The fundamentally flawed choices behind that mediocrity that take Balan Wonderworld from bland to outright bad.
Some are middle of the road and generally worthwhile,
And the story missions are exciting more often than not.
and just
I love the fact that they have to go to Far Cry New Dawn. Like, this is released in 2023, this compilation, and they have to go all the way back to Far Cry New Dawn to make a point? Like, when was that game released, IGN?
a few are heavily marketed, highly anticipated events.
Delivers an enriching show for fans of the PlayStation hit, while also managing to stay welcomely thrilling to newcomers.
The rarest of all are the surprise hit gems that come out of nowhere and are all but impossible to predict.
Apex Legends makes squad-based Battle Royale work better than thought possible, even when playing with a
Again, like, when did the Apex Legends come out? Why aren't they talking about game? Like, there's so many games right now, right? They're everywhere. Why can't they talk about those games? Why are they going back to when Apex Legends was released? I think my grandma was in diaper when this game came out.
randomly matched team.
Given that IGN can only handle so many reviews at once, and we generally review around 1,000 things per year across all categories, we have to pick and choose which to review and which to let sail by. When it's not...
Right, so you would think that they would actually focus on the games that are esoteric, because you're trying to do a public service for people. Like, if the game is already spoken by everyone and YouTubers are covering it and streamers are playing it, there is no reason for you to just give it a 7. Just go and do what Total Biscuit used to do. And he had like the WTF thing that was going on his YouTube channel. Like, he would go and find esoteric games that no one knew they were, and he would talk about them. And that's why he was so beloved, and that's why he was so famous. But no, like what IGN is doing, and they're going to explain it to you in a bit, like, it's just astonishing. They're going to look at what's trending on Google. Literally, that is their system, right? So if people talk about a game, it means that it must be good, so they will start at a 7. Are you flabbergasted by this trivia? Because I, for one, definitely am.
Not obvious that something is a big deal, like a Grand Theft Auto or an Avengers movie or a Game of Thrones.
Highly anticipated series here at the IGN offices.
We use...
But even then, you know, just because something is anticipated or it's a big deal doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But you're going to basically notice that this is what IGN is doing. It's giving grades based on popularity. So, like, if it's a AAA game and it's like, oh my god, you know, this is Last of Us, blah, 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 9 out of 10. Without, like, looking for bugs, for things. Because now it makes sense, right? Like, you go back in time a little bit, and it makes sense why they give high reviews to games that actually don't work. Because they're buggy. Because they're coming out broken on launch. They generally do not care. Like, they're looking, oh, how many people are talking about this? Oh, there's a lot of people talking about this. It's a popular game from a popular franchise. Oh, okay, 9 out of 10.
Use metrics like traffic on IGN for news, trailers, and previews to see what...
Look, metrics and traffic. Literally, that's what they're looking for. Metrics and traffic. Holy shit.
The wider audience is interested in.
The wider audience. Okay.
We also use publicly available tools like Google Trends and YouTube. Did a lot of people check out the trailer for a new movie? It's a safe bet they'll be interested to know more.
Oh my god. Oh, like I'm not saying they shouldn't review those games that are trending on Google or whatever. But wouldn't you be more interesting, like unironically, wouldn't you be more interested in the site if they were reviewing some esoteric indie games that may actually be good? And you may go, it's like, well, how can they do that? I don't know, go to 4chan. You know, you have people that are willing to do it for you for free. Like, there are forums dedicated with gamers that are actually doing this. But that would actually mean being part of the community that you hate so much, and you call them racists and bigots and sexists, right? I know. Like, you'd have to descend through the masses and actually talk to gamers and people and find out what they like and what they're interested in.
As a whole, it's still a wildly good time that fans of the games in particular are sure to enjoy.
Did just a few thousand check it out on YouTube? Maybe it's just not clicking with the IGN audience and
I just don't know what to say, man. I genuinely don't know what to say. But even then, right, like, if a game is just having, like, thousands of people watching, right, and it's bad, roasting that game is good content. Like, you could actually get people interested, and game developers could look and see, alright, so why is this game bad? Like, what did it fail to do? What can it do better? There is literally no point in what you're doing. You're taking games that are already popular, and you're giving them 7 out of 10. Without playing them, I guess. Because you're just like, alright, well, this is popular, it must be good. You're not a video gaming review website at this point. You're a click farm. That's what you're doing. You're like, okay, well, this gets views, so we may get clicks.
Review would suffer the same fate.
That's all you really need to know.
When most people aren't interested, but we are, we often take a chance on something we think is special and should be highlighted. That's when you'll see smaller things make it onto a review list.
This should be the majority, by the way. In 2023, back in the past, things were different. But in 2023, you already have Twitch streamers, as I mentioned. You already have YouTubers. There is literally no reason why you would go to something that's already popular and people already know what it's about. So you just make a review and give it a 7 out of 10.
I can hardly recommend it highly enough.
Importantly, this doesn't necessarily mean that if we don't review something, we didn't think anybody cared or assumed that it isn't good. Oftentimes, it's just an issue of timing, where we have too many irons in the fire due to a busy time of year, and by the time we'd be able to circle back and review it, the question of whether it was good or not would have been long since settled. In those cases, we generally have to wait for another opportunity to come around, such as a port to another platform that opens a game up to a new audience or a streaming date.
Makes it a truly...
You know, there is no way you can give Cyberpunk a 9. There is literally no way. The release of Cyberpunk was so buggy. It had so many issues. There is no way you would give it a 9 unless you're like, oh, it's Cyberpunk, it's popular. Of course, you know, we need to give it a 9. There is no justification for this course.
Remarkable RPG.
So why is it that the big name stuff rarely seems to score below a 7, which means good on IGN's review scale?
It's ultimately more of a strike.
Why does 7 mean good? Why does 7 mean good? Like, okay, that means like what? 8 is very good, 9 is excellent, 10 is superb. Like why not just go to mediocre? Like start with 5 or with 6. Right? Like, and not to mention, like, Calypso Protocol is definitely below a 7. There's no fucking way you can give a 7 to this game. Anyone that plays it, you know, in the beginning, because, like, I think, like, this is a really good benchmark to see if someone actually plays the game. When you play it in the beginning, it's amazing, right? But once you actually get used to the combat and you understand how to play the game, it's almost like just hold forward, all the battles are boring. Like, the moment you understand the left-right dodge mechanic, there's literally no more challenge. There's no fear. There's no horror in the game, right? It's visually appealing. I would give it, like, at best a 6 or a 5. Right? Anyone that gives a 7 to this game is being disingenuous.
Striking modern mimic than a scary new mutation.
Simply put, if something doesn't at least look like it might be great, people didn't click on it or Google it, and we probably didn't review it as a result. But if it does look great enough to pique your interest, it usually ends up being at least okay.
How can Forespoken Forspoken get a 6? How can, like, a game which literally trashed the studio? A game that trashed the studio. Do you know what an accomplishment that is? Do you know how difficult that is to make? Like, to create a video game that is so freaking bad, you crash a studio. Like, there are people who made photos, like, finding Forspoken copies in the dumpsters. That's how bad this game was. There is no way this game is anything above a 2. Like, you'd give it a 2 because a 1 would mean, like, it's not functional, it's broken. It's like one of those scam games, I'll say, like, that would be a 1. This wasn't a scam, it was an actual game. It gets a 2. There is no reason to give it, like, more than a little load of 6. How can this game be okay? Like, if Forespoken is okay, what is less than Forespoken? What would you give a 4 to? Huh? Jesus.
Hey.
Combat is flashy and fun enough to entertain.
And especially
How is combat flashy and fun enough to entertain? How disconnected are you from the community? How detached are you from the community? Like, I'm willing to bet if I give this game to a person that never played video games before, they will hate it. They would think, like, you know what? Maybe I should never play video games again. Like, if Forspoken is anything to go by.
Especially in the case of a big budget game, publishers have to be feeling pretty confident about them being reasonably well received for them to make it to the point of being released at all.
Again, you're talking about this and you're showing Forspoken in the background. Shame on you. Literally, shame on you.
Maybe the publisher has even hired some freelance writers to do mock reviews under non-disclosure agreements to see how it might score on release, and many of them came back with 5s or lower. Most of the time, a publisher is going to cancel that game and pivot to a...
How can Crackdown be lower than Forspoken? Like, that just doesn't happen. Crackdown did not crash the studio. I'm not saying it's a good game. I'm saying it did not crash the studio, right? Like, Forspoken should be below a 5.
more promising project. When that happens, it never sees the light of day, much less gets reviewed. And games are cancelled like this all the time, before we even know they exist. Of course, some very rough productions do still come out for whatever reason, and when they do, we have no issues giving a 5 to a highly marketed game.
How is Gotham Knights lower than Forespoken? Gotham Knights did not crash their fucking studio! I'm just saying, you know, like, it should, like, Forespoken should be a 2. I'm not saying Gotham Knights should be a 5 either. I'm thinking it should be a 4, but it did not crash its studio. Like, again, just like something so atrocious that the studio doesn't exist anymore.
Game like Gotham Knights or a big name movie like Black Adam. But it's relatively rare that so much time and money is spent on creating something that falls so short of being at least okay.
No, that's not the case. That is not the case. Like people have different expectations from a AAA game. Like, you need to take price into account. A AAA game costs $70. Okay? If I buy something off Steam that's an indie game, and it's like, I don't know, 2 hours game time, but it's like $5, then the expectations are different. You cannot... Oh my god, like, why am I teaching the IGN, which is supposed to be one of the best review websites, how to actually review a product? Yeah, the money that the customer pays should be taken into account. Like just as everything in life, right? Like, if you purchase a $5 steak versus like that Japanese shit which costs $2,000, you have like some expectations with that? Oh, God.
Not good, great, or even amazing. And that's why the great majority of our reviews end up on the top half of the scale. When it comes to the big events, they're usually safe bets, and in most cases, the question isn't if they'll be good, but
like, again, you know, the reason people are asking this is that there are other review channels. There are reviewers on YouTube, there are reviewers on Twitch, and they do a good job. And they do not just shit sevens nonstop. And they do manage to review games that people didn't hear about. How do they do it? How do they do it, IGN? By the way, of course, everyone in the comments are just completely bewildered. Not by the fact that the IGN is doing this, because like everyone knew what's going on. They're absolutely bewildered due to the fact that they're coming out and they're saying this, like they're proud of it. Again, like, hey, our website is not a video game review website anymore, it's a click site. We just look at what's popular so you can give us clicks. And developers are afraid of this publication. It's like, oh my god, man, we need to make progressive games, because otherwise they give us bad ratings. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section, and I'll give you a 7 if you don't like this video.